it felt as though this moment's meant for me, with everything that has happened to me in my career, and the heart surgeries and the injuries and the setbacks and the manager's opinions. Like, this one moment has cemented it for me to kind of go, right, I'm back. Now I can enjoy me football again. And that's why I say, like, there was so much emotion that came from it. And then the experiences that we've had with Newport for the next 3.5 years after that I got to play nearly 4 years, was stuff that you could only ever dream. Stuff that I never thought I'd ever experience, and it was unbelievable.
It's an absolute pleasure to welcome the Newport County legend, Mark O'Brien, to the From the Club podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
No, it's not a problem at all. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, mate, what a career. One that reads, doesn't it, like a Hollywood script. Starting off with major heart surgery to then scoring the goal that kept Newport County in the Football League. We're going to obviously be talking about both of these major events. But before we do, let's go back to the very beginning, Mark. What was life like growing up as a kid?
Do you know what? Like, growing up as a kid, it's the only way I can put it is it's just like a normal upbringing. It was go out on the street, kick a ball off a wall, and play with your friends, and get involved in every last activity you probably can. Like, I used to play rounders, I used to skateboard, I used to go up to the park with my friends. Like, it was just a normal upbringing, and one that I look at now and say, like, I was lucky and privileged to have, because sometimes I think, even in things as I've seen, especially nowadays with the role that I'm taking on and being involved with charity, it's like sometimes, like, that even is something that is missed, and you kind of underestimate what a normal upbringing is. So for me, like, I was quite lucky to have that, and something that, yeah, it was something that put me in good stead for where I'm at now.
Yeah. Well, you had this active lifestyle as a kid. Was it, looking back now, was there ever a hint that there could have been an issue with your health?
Back then, there was never a hint of anything. It was always just, anything I did was, if there was a sports day, I'd be running around tracks, and I'd be like, I was always so active as a child. So there was never any small hints of anything that I might have a slight issue somewhere. Like, I remember when I was 13 or 14, I ended up having a heart ECG for my heart rhythm and stuff like that, because I was flying away with my international side, Ireland. And that alone came back all positive, and there was no, like, kind of hiccups or anything. So there was never even an opportunity for something like that to be found. So I was actually, I was very surprised when it did come up when I was 16.
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned you was active in all sorts of sports when you was a kid. When you started playing football, at what age did you become aware that there were scouts keeping an eye on you, Mark?
Probably around the age of 14, 15 is normally when it starts, like, kicking in for when you're over living in Ireland, because it's like you start playing for, like, your local Dublin side, which is your county. And then once you start playing in that and you go to tournaments, scouts come and watch that. And then they start coming watching your local team that you play for. And then when you're 15, you get an opportunity to play for Ireland. And then that starts developing. So usually around the age of 13, 14 is when I started to go out on trials, because, again, you have to be of a certain age to be able to go on trials. So you're never really aware any younger. But at the age of 14 is when I started to see there was a lot of interest from English clubs. Like, I had interest from Blackburn Rovers, Man City. I went on trial to Liverpool, and then Derby County was another one. Like, there was a couple of others, but they were the ones that kind of stuck out for me.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been incredible as a 15-year-old going back to school saying, oh, just spent the weekend in Manchester at Man City. What was that like? I mean, was any of your other mates getting trials, or was you sort of like the superstar at school, Mark?
There weren't many people getting trials, but, like, I knew of other people who did get trials. But again, it was you'd go away on trial, and again, like you say, you could go to Liverpool or Man City, but then you'd come back off one of your school breaks and it's just back to normal. Like, you don't...
Yeah.
Like, I was never someone who would really, like, brand my life out there. I put myself out there to be like, lads, look, I just went to Liverpool on the weekend. But I think just over time it became normal. So like I missed in my third year of secondary school, I missed like certain chunks of it due to flying away with me international side with Ireland and stuff like that. And some teachers didn't like it. Other teachers were supportive of it. Some teachers were saying, Mark, you're going down a rabbit hole of a career that you probably never will make in. It's too tough to make it. Look after your education. And I had other teachers that would just give me homework to send away with me and look, we'll support it where we can. So you get that bit of a mixture. But I don't think there was going to be ever any teacher or anybody that was going to stand in my way for trying to fulfill a career that, as I said, I absolutely fell in love with.
Yeah, well, it was Derby County that managed to seal the deal with you, and they obviously took you and you end up flying over to Derby at 15 years old. What was it like leaving home at such a young age and then moving to a place that was unknown to you? What was that transition like?
I've said it so many times, like I could have moved halfway around the world to play football. I could have moved to Australia. Like if I knew I was getting the chance to play football every single day and that was supposed to be my job, it never really bothered me. I knew it was a step that needed to be taken to fulfill that dream. So I think when you look at it, when I settled in at Derby a little bit, I'd say when I kind of had the realization of going, oh, I'm away from home now, like, and it might have been a year or 2 years, there was a little bit of missing home a lot. But like it never really took off because football was just like a massive passion of mine. And I was lucky enough at Derby to the very first season that I moved over, going from the playing in a local park, and then I played for a season over in Derby, and then by the time I was 16 I got a chance to make my debut for the first team, and that was something that just cemented everything for me to say, yeah, I've made the right choice, this is what I want to do. And from that moment on, like, I never looked back.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, I want to talk about that whirlwind because, like you say, you know, you didn't really have much time to get homesick, did you? Because it was such a fast pace where you end up in the first team. When did you actually get an idea that you were actually being, you know, looked at by the first team manager? He was aware of who you was, and you know, that transition into being actually told on the last game of the season that you're actually going to be a part of a squad. How did that all happen?
When the season was going on, when I first signed, Paul Jewell was the manager. So when I signed, and it must have been that they've signed me, and Paul Jewell came and spoke a little bit, and I think they were aware of a player who came over from Ireland, and I think the academy spoke really highly of me from what they expected from me, but I didn't know any of that. And then I think as that season was going on, and I had the chance to register when I turned 16 through that year, I got to play for Derby's under-18s team. And then once I played for the under-18s, Nigel Clough changed and came in as manager. And it was just kind of snowballed from there. Then it was just after about Christmas time, I think, one of the second-year scholars ended up coming down with an illness, or he was injured, to play in a reserve game that the reserves had in a they were playing against the Glen Hoddle Academy. And I got to play 5 minutes in that, and there was one or two first team, there was a couple of pros and a couple of young lads, and I got to play, I'd say, a handful of minutes in that game, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, like, I was throwing myself in front of the ball, I was trying to make tackles, I was trying to win headers. And Nigel Clough, I remember saying that he really liked what he saw in the space of those couple of minutes. So then I got given another opportunity with reserve teams. So then as them weeks went on, I'd play with the under-18s, and then there might be a reserve game that I get a chance for. And then by the time I got to the end of the season, my mum and dad were over. It was the last youth team game of that season, and Nigel Clough spoke to my parents on top of a hill where the training ground is, looking down onto the pitch. And I remember I went to the first team game, and it was, if Derby get a result that day, they're safe for the last game of the season and don't need a result. And what he told my parents was, we'll fly you back over next week, Mark will make his debut, or Mark's going to be with the first team. So I never knew any of this, and it was only after the Derby game my dad said to me before they left, I was like, look, the season's finished, I'll see you next week, because I was meant to be flying home. And my dad was like, no, we'll be over next week, I'll see you next week. And I just laughed, and he said, no, how my dad described it was, I'll tell me mate, my mate Nigel told me that you'll be in the squad next week. And I laughed it off because normally my dad would joke around with stuff like that. And then I remember the Monday morning, Andy Garner comes up to the youth team changing room and said, "OB, you're with us today." And that's when it kind of like hit me a little bit to think, oh, I'm with the first team. And then I trained all week with the first team, which absolutely loved it. And then I got to travel away to Watford on the Saturday. And thankfully for me, they were losing 3-1 at the 3-0 at the time for half time. And I got the last half an hour of the game. And the game finished 3-1. And it was like a whirlwind once I came onto the pitch. I remember doing the warm-up on the side of the pitch, and Nigel Clough's words to me going on was, kick it, head it, be a defender. And that's all he ever said to me. And I went on there and it was like I was playing down the park with my friends at the youth team. And that was the whole thing about football with me. It was like, football for me was like an alter ego. I was still 16, but once I was playing football, I was telling anybody to do what they needed to do. But off the field, I wouldn't speak to anybody. But that whole experience, like you say, was a roller coaster, but one that I'll never ever forget.
Yeah. Well, that dressing room that you went into as a 16-year-old, I mean, that was a dressing room that included, some big personalities, including like Robbie Savage, right? Can you remember what any of those big personalities kind of said to you as a 16-year-old, being parachuted into your first team debut?
To be honest, that whole week, every single one of them were supportive of me. Every single one of them. From when I went to my very first training session, and I remember in the canteen afterwards, the first team players coming over to me when I'm sitting with all like the under 18s and saying, if there was a man of the match award to give for the training session, you were unbelievable today. And it kind of made you feel that little bit chest out moment, and you absolutely loved every minute of it. And then on the match day itself, once I came onto the pitch, I came on and I played centre back next to Rob Hulse, who was a striker. But the first words he said to me was, "OB, you're the defender, you tell me what to do." And that kind of gave me a little bit of a kind of confidence to kind of go, right, it's like, I'll speak to him, I'll help him. But again, you look back and it goes, he would have known how to play centre back. Like, he's been in the game and played Premier League and everything. But everything that I'd done on that day, Robbie Savage was the club captain. But if I win a header, if I win a tackle, I got to clear one off the line. And all these little things, the first person over to me was Robbie Savage, arm around, saying, well done, keep it going, well done. And that in itself is just something that does make you feel that little 10 feet tall, like that. Yeah, like this is a captain. This is all that I wanted. And a personality like that, as loud as he can be off the field and his banter and different things like that, when the time came to be supportive and be that captain and role model, like I said, I couldn't ask for a better one.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I mean, the way that you explain that, I wish I had a time machine and could go back to seeing that game. Like, incredible just to think about it. And of course, all of that momentum and this whirlwind, like you've spoken about in terms of making your first team debut, you were obviously all set over that summer to kick on and you were excited about the new season. But this is obviously where you then picked up on the information that you actually had a problem with your heart. How did that all come about, Mark?
Well, it was after that season, I fly home to Dublin and everybody is ecstatic and absolutely loving the fact that I'm at home and the debut. And like there wasn't a single issue. It was when I got back for pre-season that summer, we started pre-season training. And during that pre-season training, I got to register myself as a Derby County player because back then I was still seen as a schoolboy. So now I got to be my first year scholarship. And when I got to register, you need to go through the medical screenings, like your height, your weights, your joints, your muscles, and obviously heart screening as well. And I remember it was my day to get heart screened, and you get an echocardiogram done. And that was something where I walked into the physio room and the doctor scans your heart. And 9 times out of 10 with most of the players, it was, no, everything's fine, on you go. But with me, it was, he walked out of the room, got the physio, and both of them came back into the room, closed the door behind them and sat with me and said, Mark, it's nothing to worry about. But we've picked up a slight abnormality with your heart valve. By the looks of it, it looks like you've got a minor leak in your aortic valve. Now, this is something he told me that people live with for their whole lives and never spot it until later on in life. So he said, we're looking at something, he said, that is very, very minor, because obviously you're not feeling any effects, you're not you're not feeling what potentially what you should feel. Because they were asking me, do you feel dizzy? Do you feel lightheaded? Do you feel out of breath? Do you feel exhausted with fatigue? And there was none of them feelings because, again, I made my debut the season before. So they told me that I'd carry on training, but they were going to have to follow it up with another MRI because they won't need another operation for another, he said, it could be 60, 70 years. He said it could have been that long because he said it's only later in life. But he said, we're better off having an MRI of your heart in function in real time than what an echo can show and pictures. So over a couple of weeks, I was doing a little bit of training. And then with the MRI that was coming up, I remember like a week before, we used to wear heart rate monitors in training. And with the heart rate monitors, at the end of every week, the fitness coach would read out the heart rates of what your peak was to what your average is and different things. And mine was, my peak heart rate went up to like 227, 230. And the average was 209. So my heart rate was just constantly high, and if not exaggerated high, and was never coming down during rest periods. So they kind of put two and two together and really forced this MRI to happen. So I went for the MRI scan, and with the physio, after I had it, they sat us down and said, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really, really bad and 1 being absolutely nothing, your valve is leaking about a 7 or an 8. So then that's where it started getting taken a little bit more serious. So we had to gather all the information and then send that to another specialist. And then once that got sent to another specialist, the specialist sat us down, explained everything, asked me how I was feeling at first, because again, I still wasn't feeling anything, and was saying, well, Mark, look, at by the looks of your scan, it looks like that you won't probably need another operation for another 20, 30 years. But in 20, 30 years, maybe it is something that you need to get looked at later in life. But for now, it looks like it's progressed slightly, but not too much. But we're going to have to give it to another doctor, a surgeon, to see what his professional opinion would be. So from what was 60 years is now 20 to 30 years. And then we went to see a doctor, and my parents flew over for that one because I wasn't really telling anybody back home what happened. Yeah. I was kind of just like telling me dad everything, but my mum would always get kept to the side of that because, as everybody knows, a mother would worry. So I didn't want my mum to worry at home. And then both of them flew over, and I'll always remember that the 3 of us were sitting in a room, or the 4 of us were sitting in a room. And the doctor came in, and he put like his diary or whatever he had in his hand on his desk, and he picked up this model heart, and he said, right, Mark, he said, what we've got here is your heart is 3 times the size of what it should be, and if you don't have the operation done this year, he said, you're going to die. And it was that moment that it never felt like he was talking to me. It was like the outer body stuff where I'm thinking, you can't be speaking to me. Yeah. And the question was asked, can I still play football? And he kind of laughed to an extent, like in a jokey way. It was just like playing professional football. He said, you'd be lucky to play down the park with your friends. And that's probably what killed me the most, is hearing that I probably won't get to play football ever again. Because he told me a professional career is something that takes like high levels of intensity, high levels of fitness, and the way my heart is, and after an operation like that, it won't be a guarantee to ever get back to that standard of playing. And that part broke me the most, because potentially if I didn't have the debut the season before, I wouldn't really know what I'm missing. But the debut kind of set it in stone for me to think this is all that I want. And hearing that I might die kind of sailed over my head. And I always say that took me as that's being a 16 naive kid that doesn't really understand what's going on. And he went through the operation procedures that I could have had, and one of them was a prosthetic valve, like a pigskin valve. And I got told that it could last me a year to a maximum of 5 years. I got told that it's not guaranteed that it's going to last for whether it takes to your body being a foreign body going inside you. I got told that the fitness levels might not reach anything. It's not a guarantee, but it's something that might give you the chance to play football again, but you probably won't play professionally. And once I heard might play again, it was the only thing that I could think of and want to pursue. So for me, it was like there was no doubt behind anything to why I chose that one. It was literally, never spoke to my parents when they were sitting in the room. It was literally, yeah, I'll have that one. And I went and had the operation, which took about, I think the operation was 6 hours long. And after the operation, I had a few tough moments where when I'm laying in a hospital bed and I have teammates of mine coming to visit and me thinking, why am I the one that has to be visited? Why did this have to happen to me? Like, again, the whole, like, I just made me debut. This shouldn't be happening to me. Like, I don't understand this. And I remember I just broke into tears with my mum thinking that, like, I think it was at that point, like, the realization nearly hit that I'll probably never play again. But Derby sent me home for 3 months. And again, this is what I mean by Nigel Clough as a manager. He phoned up every day that he could to ask if I'm doing me walk and to see how I am. He's phoning up to ask my parents how they are, how are they holding up. And he took a real interest. Now, 9 times out of 10, a manager doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have to show that level of care and that level of normality to things and humanity to things, because football is a business. But he took like a real good care of making sure I was okay and making sure that my family were, that I was doing the things I was supposed to be doing when I was back in Ireland. And then I flew back to Derby in the January. And again, with the fitness coach, we were jogging slowly when it was snowing outside, and it was all new to everybody. Like, nobody knew how to rehab a heart. Like, it was a physio and a fitness coach and a doctor where it's kind of like, right, so what do we do? Because it's not a hamstring, it's not a knee injury, it's not he's pulled a muscle, it's how do you get a heart fit? So they just went back to basics where how do you make somebody a fit person? So we done intervals of, I had like a heart rate monitor on my watch, and it was, you jog until your heart rate gets to a certain level, and then we'll walk until it goes back down, and then we go again. And it was just that continuously for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I was always positive around everything because everybody around me was positive. Everyone was like, right, Mark, we go again. Right, Mark, look, we'll give it everything. Come on, we go again. Mark, when you're back playing, this is going to be a great story. It's going to help you massively. And I never had time to sit and think that this might never happen. The only time that I ever done that was when I was watching my teammates train on a pitch across from me when I'm jogging on my own. And I'm thinking, I won't get back to that fitness because I was feeling really tired. I thought this is going to take a lot. But then the kind of spirit of everything came back when I had to go to the hospital, and you do your 6-month checkup, and they wanted to see the fitness levels and everything of how everything is going. And I remember I was walking on a treadmill. It was almost like the equivalent of their type of fitness test. And I was walking on a treadmill, and I was walking. He goes, okay, Mark, we'll go a little bit faster. We go a little bit faster. And this was really slow walking pace. And I was just flying through everything. And they were like, Mark, you're streets ahead of where you should be. So whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. And that to me is what then went, right, I'm on the right track. Because if I'm not supposed to be where I'm at now, like now that I am and now that I'm flying and everything is going in the right direction. So it kind of gave me the belief again. And then we carried on. And then by the April, May time, I got back playing for the youth team, and my very first game was against Manchester United on MUTV. And I remember my dad got to watch it at home, which I found out he was more nervous than me because they didn't know how I was going to be when I was playing, and they didn't want me to be disappointed if I wasn't the same player. But my dad said he remembers watching me trying to jump in from my first header, blocking a ball with my chest and making it. And he said he sat back and just thought, Mark's back, it's okay, everything's fine. Yeah. And then I ended up making the first team bench by the end of that season against Cardiff at home. So for a season that I didn't play much football, it probably turned out to be one of the most pivotal seasons in my life because it really gave me more of a loving and a respect and an appreciation for football so much more than I had then. It was just a passion. Now it was, right, my life is, everything is geared towards football, and I'm going to enjoy every single day, not just every season. Every day of playing football is going to be me be all and end all, because luckily enough for me, what I got told is a difference between a year to a maximum of 5 years. And I had a heart scan every single season to see if I was able to continue to the next season. I ended up getting 11, nearly 12 years out of the game. And that to me was because I had such an appreciation and love for it. Every season I had to treat like it was going to be my last season. So that means I gave everything to that season. And yeah, I had the typical upsets along the way, and I never really spoke about it too much. And look, you have your up times and your bad times in your career, but I just loved every moment of it, and every moment of it meant everything to me. So that in itself was just something that, it was difficult at the time, but that season set me up for so much more of a resilience through my career than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah. You're an absolute warrior, mate. I mean, from being told that you might die and, you're never going to play football again, I think it was about 7 months, wasn't it? The recovery
Yeah.
in terms of, actually, I mean, that's just incredible. I just want to go back, Mark, because I'm not sure if I've picked up on this correctly. So the fact that, in a way, you could say that football saved your life, because if you would have been a normal 16-year-old and you'd become a plumbing apprentice or an electrician, you'd obviously never have had the heart scan, right? So it was a fact that you was a professional footballer and that you'd had your heart scan that picked this up in the first place. Is that right?
Yeah, like everything I can always owe towards football. Like football saved me life, and I always put it in the terms of like football is something that did save me life, and Newport and Derby County saved me career, because if it wasn't for Derby County and Nigel Clough, I wouldn't have had a career, because I got given an extra 3-year deal going through open heart surgery because of my debut. And then if it wasn't for football, well then potentially, in the nicest way possible, I probably wouldn't be sitting here to speak to you today.
Incredible, mate. Absolutely incredible. You often hear when you speak to footballers, when they have a bad injury, it's not uncommon for them to get a secondary injury somewhere else because they're slightly running and nursing that. But it sounds like this game against Man United, your first game back, you're chesting the ball straight away. I mean, was there a program running through your brain at any point where you're thinking, oh, I might have to give this 70%, or was it just like completely not even thinking about that?
Do you know what? I never thought about it, because I'd done enough through the whole time of watching games and watching my teammates play. It was almost like I was back being that kid going out to play for the first time ever again in a park. And don't get me wrong, I think there was a lot of people around me that were a lot more nervous than me, that they never told me until later in life that, I remember when you got back playing and we were, oh my God, hearts and mouths type moments where we didn't even know how things would be, and we were just hoping for the best for you. But for me, again, football was a massive distraction, just as much as it was me love and passion. It was a distraction of everything. Once there was a ball there to be tackled, once there was a game to be played, nothing else mattered other than that game. And again, you're talking and you're telling people, pull in here, squeeze up there, and like you're kind of being that person at the back. You have nothing else to think about other than the game at hand. So once I got told, and especially being 16, once I got told I'm okay, well then I didn't have to think otherwise. I didn't have that way of thinking, or I didn't have that mindset of having the mind of my own to kind of go, but what about this and what about that? I was 16, and if someone says you're okay, well then okay, I believe you, I'm okay, and I'm going to go. So I was kind of lucky it happened when it did, because I was very naive again as the 16-year-old. So there was never a single thought, if a ball hit me in the chest, well then that was my job, I made a block. If there was a header to be won, well then that's my job, I done what I needed to do. So I was I was very more focused on the football and than I was the health side of it for the whole time.
Well, you mentioned a few times Nigel Clough, a fantastic character of the game, and of course a Mansfield legend in many ways in terms of how he's developed the club over there with the Stags. What are your greatest memories of him that you've not already spoken about, Mark?
My greatest memories of them is he enhanced the basics of what my football was. Like, loved, again, the old school centre-back type that I was. Like, other managers potentially probably would have never have taken as much of a liking as he did, but he's someone that I owe my career to, because if it wasn't for him giving me that opportunity as a debut, if it wasn't for him to give me the 3-year contract after open heart surgery, if it wasn't him believing in me to get back playing and then put me straight back into the team, like later down the line, like there was so many things that I owe him towards my own career that I look at and just think, as a person, as a manager, like showed me the meaning of the basics of defending, like enhanced what I enjoyed doing, like kick it, head it, tackle, be that defender, like defenders defend, and that type feeling. And then on top of that, he was a great man manager. Like still being 16 and I'm eating with a knife and fork a certain way, he showed me the right way to eat with a knife and fork. Like there was just like a hands-on approach with things. If he took an interest in you, he might be a little bit hard on you at times. But when he took an interest, it was because he knows you can be better, and he knows that you want better, and he knows that you're capable of better. Because I used to get told off some of the older lads was, it's the moment he stops talking to you is when you need to be worried.
Yeah.
That's when it means he doesn't care anymore. Like the reason he's so kind of on your back and the reason why he's on your case a little bit more is because he knows that he wants more for you and wants better for you. So, as I said, he was someone that I do owe a lot to from my career and from my life in itself, that look, I'll always look back on and just think I was lucky to have the right man in charge at the right time for such a difficult time, that as a man manager or someone who is just a caring type person and a normal person, I can't speak highly enough of him.
Yeah. You played for a number of characters. Another one was ex-England manager Steve McClaren. What was that experience like?
Absolutely loved it. Like I think he was someone then who showed me the other side of football, the playing the ball out from the back, like the football in football. And that even for itself, getting to do half a year to a year of training under him, I could feel myself physically getting better and understanding football and the reasons why if you make this pass and make this angle, this happens and this happens. And it put an extra stable onto my game. Now, again, I think the manager that he was to the player I was, I think he wanted to go in that newer direction, the way you see football now, with your centre backs and your diagonal balls and taking a ball down and not wasting too much possession. I don't think we quite hit it because I was getting back off a knee injury and he already had things set in place. But as a manager, he was brilliant with me. Like there was never any kind of animosities. Like I came back in and he was delighted to have me in training and to be the tough tackler. And again, just to kind of learn. And I learned a lot from him as a manager. Like the training sessions that we done and the understanding of the game just grew that little bit more just from training with that squad. Because again, the squad that was there, that Nigel Clough created, he just enhanced it. He enhanced it on a footballing basis, on how can we get the best football technically out of these players. And for what he done with majority of that squad, like you say, they ended up making it to Wembley and almost getting to the Premier League and different things like that. That it was yes, one of the most enjoyable times of football and like just learning new things. It was, again, it's the simple way of saying, like I was like a kid learning all new skills again. And it was still football, but it was just a different way of understanding the game. And it was a brilliant time.
Did he ever get the brolly out when he was at Derby?
No, but he had a big jacket with a hood, so
more than one way to skin a cat, isn't it?
Exactly.
A little later, another character that you were managed by his current Charlton manager, Nathan Jones. What was that like?
I'd say that this part was probably a difficult part of my career. I think I got a chance to sign for Luton Town and the manager changed over. And with that change over, the manager and Nathan Jones coming in, like I was never like a solid fixture in the Luton team. But we had so many players under John Still, the previous manager. So everybody was kind of getting that turn and everybody was in and out and you were mixing and changing. And I remember Nathan Jones came in and wanted to downsize the squad, wanted to work on a certain way of being, enjoyed the challenge of wanting to get Luton back to the top again and everything like that. He was a new manager coming in from Brighton under 21. So he had like the bit between his teeth. And as time developed, you could see the odd John Still player was getting left out and then another John Still player was getting left out. He'd bring in one of his own players, and it was that side of football that I've seen happen to many people, but you never think it's going to happen to you. where you end up starting to train by yourself, train with the youth team, pre-season on my own. And this was like a difficult time in my career because I never experienced this before with other managers that I've had. I've had very good man managers in a Stuart McCall, in a Steve McClaren, in Nigel Clough, where now all of a sudden it's a manager that is telling me that it's because it's a business. Football's a business. Like this isn't a personal thing. This is business. So when there's no personal touch to it and there's no kind of understanding to it, I struggled a lot. And I remember like during my time there, and again, I was 23, 24, and I'm training with the under 16s by myself. And you're going in every day and you're having lunch with your first team teammates, and then you're going out to train, and I'm with the youth team and the first team are on a pitch across me, and I'm thinking, well, what have I done wrong to not be allowed to train with you? What have I done wrong to be put in this position? And again, because there was nothing that I did do wrong, I could never understand why. Because I didn't think I was too bad of a person. I didn't think I was bad of a player. And I remember as the season was going on, and if there was a first team member injured, my name would get called. I'd go over and train with the first team to make up numbers. And then once that player comes back, I'm sent back with the youth team. And there was nothing I could have done. And the season, I remember I came back when he was in for half a season, and then the full season that I came back for, I remember my squad number got taken away from me, and I got told I'm on a transfer list, and this was on the very first day of pre-season. So I remember I sat with him in the office. He said, "Yeah, I'll be like, you're on the transfer list, and yeah, we don't want you here, and it's business." And I kind of had to accept it. So the first team flew away to Austria, I think it was, and the under-18s flew away to Italy. And I was turning up to the training ground every morning, running on the treadmill by myself. I was turning up and doing sessions on a pitch by myself. And I was lucky enough that one of the head academy staff members in Andy Orford would do little small sessions with me. And he'd do like fast feet cones. He was a defender himself. And he kind of put a little bit of time into me. The fitness coach from Luton put a little bit of time into me, Dave Richardson. And he was somebody who then again was just putting everything into me and was giving me the opportunity to get fit and stay fit and be ready for that next team that comes along. And I'd done this for, I'd say in total, it was nearly 10 months of just training. And then I'd play a couple of games for Southport, and then I was training. Like there was never anything that I could have done to get into that Luton team. His mind was made up. And it got to at Christmas time, and I remember I had to move out of my apartment I was living in, and then I was living in a small hotel. It was kind of a B&B thing local to Luton, and I was paying for that out of my own money. And I had to speak with the manager of the place to ask, like, is there a special deal I can do because I've got nowhere to live? Because as much as I'm training every single day, I'm not going to be playing. I'm struggling to get out on loan, and I'm struggling to kind of make it to another team. Like I'm in this kind of stuck in the middle moment where I'm like, I don't know where to go and what to do. And again, I was lucky that the manager of the B&B like done okay by me, because he was someone who liked Luton players and different things like that. So I just ended up having to turn up every day to the training ground, go home, get my head down, just sleep. And I look back at it now and could easily say I was depressed, because it was the first time I was being challenged on my career that this is something that doesn't sit right. Like, why is this happening to me? But you get to a point where I say that 16, having that operation is so pivotal, that I looked and thought to myself, I didn't go through everything I went through 8 years ago to be beaten by this person, to allow this to get to me. So I turned up every day with a smile on your face, and you shake hands and you go and have lunch and you go training with the under 16s, but you make it the best session that you can. You go training with the under 18s and you make it the best session that you can. So it was almost then you take up the role of kind of going, well, I'll make it as best as I can for myself. And I'm going to make the best of a training session and help these 18-year-olds. I'll be, as you want to call it, I'll be a role model for these 18-year-olds. Say, this is what you need to be if you want to make it to a force team. And again, like you're having sessions where you're tackling harder and you're training like you're playing with the force team. And you just start doing things properly, but you do it out of a, I'm going to prove you wrong type mentality. It's not going to get me down. So, like, again, through everything that I faced, I'll always have down moments, but there was always something in me that, like, there was always a slight fire because the way my career was, and because my career is a year-to-year thing, that's why it affected me so much that I didn't know if this was going to be my last year of football. I didn't know if this was going to be the last time I kick a ball in football by the time I get this scan. So if that's been my last year and I've been training with under 16s, that's not how I wanted to finish my career. And that was always, I would say, subconsciously in the back of my mind. But to an extent, when you're going through it, you don't think like that all the time. You just think in the here and now, and this season, give your everything to it. And I wasn't being allowed to give everything to that season. So you almost felt restricted, and that's where the frustrations came. So there was so much that happened in that time. But again, the mentality of proving someone wrong, or the mentality of let's be positive and let's just push through it, kicked in. And as I said, I ended up getting the opportunity to go to Newport County.
We'll talk about that in a few moments. Going back then, did you have like the support of an agent who was like proactively trying to get you a move? Was there any kind of support within the club who were trying to get you a loan move? Did you have any sort of support like that?
I didn't. To get to Luton, I had a support of an agent, but to get anywhere else, it was quite difficult. I think that's when I started to almost deal with things by myself, because when you're waiting to hear from an agent where you could be probably more proactive because you're the one in that position, when an agent has 3 or 4 other players or potentially more, you don't know whether you're top priority, middle priority or lower priority. So I started to learn about like starting to deal with things for myself and starting to deal with things for myself, because if you're hearing a word of mouth rather than I can just get a contact from someone, phone it and find out the answer for myself. And once I started to learn that side of it, I thought this is a much better, easier side and easier way to do it. Yeah, I might not know what the finances side of stuff is, and I might not know the technical stuff, but if you have a genuine conversation with someone, well, let's see what can happen. So even with that, I think I was just able to kind of understand it a little bit more and getting myself to Southport. And to be honest, I think the Luton chairman was very supportive in a sense where he was the one that helped me. Whereas Nathan Jones was somebody who, again, when it came to the last moment of me having to leave, which was a deadline day, I'm getting phone calls saying, I could have got you here and I could have got you there. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why didn't you tell me this 3 months ago when you knew I was training on my own and I was doing pre-season by myself, rather than now you're telling me when you actually need me out the door and now you have this support from me. So it never really sat right with me for stuff like that. But then I had the Luton chairman phone me up and say, Mark, what's going on? And I explained the whole situation to him, and I told him I'm not in this game and industry just for money, to bleed you for money. I said my circumstances are so different to everybody else's. And he knew me as a person and said, Mark, look, I know you're not like that as a player. So look, we'll try and get you out on loan and we'll help you where we can help you. And that to me just felt like a weight off the shoulders moment to think, right, finally someone's listening. So they did help me get to Southport, and unfortunately enough I got injured while I was there, so I came back to Luton and done all my rehab, and then again sitting around for a long time after the rehab. And then it came to January, and I remember again it was myself texting Dino Marmaria, who was the assistant manager in Newport at the time. Graham Wesley was the manager. I'm just sending a hopeful text of saying, is there any chance you can get me to Newport, Dino? Is there any chance that I can come in and even go for a trial? And he texts back saying, are you fit? And I text him saying, I am fit, but the only next level for me to do is play games. I said, I haven't played a game in 10 months. I said 10, 11 months. I haven't played in so long, but I'm training every day, so I am fit. I just need a chance to play. And he told me to leave it with him, and I've always say the rest is history.
Exactly that, and that next chapter was a wonderful chapter, not only for you but for the Newport County fans as well. I just want to quickly pick up on something. I can imagine that you train like you play, right? The ultimate professional. Here you are, sort of mentoring and coaching, training with the 16s and 18s. Were there any players at that age who went on to make it? Is there a blueprint from training with you where there's any recognisable names where these players went on to have good careers?
I wouldn't say there was a blueprint where there was people that went on to have great careers just because training with me, but there was one or two where I remember when in the youth team there was James Justin.
Yeah.
And he went on to play for Luton's first team and then obviously into the Premier League with Leicester. And there was a couple of others that went on to play like non-league and different things like that. And there's a couple of others that went different directions. But it was more about, I think the youth team manager at the time embraced the fact of having me there and kind of taught me that, Mark, you're a role model now. And showed me that side of football and showed me the way of, again, like a Robbie Savage with an arm around the shoulder saying, well done and train as you play type thing. So when they would do set plays or when they would do free kicks and someone had to mark me, well, then I'd make it as difficult as I could as I would in a first team. So then they had to learn how it is to defend against someone from a first team standard, not just the youth team standard. So once I kind of got taught that way on that side of football, it actually helped me rather than it did hinder me, where, again, I had me moments of turning up the training and thinking, not today. I just can't today. Like this, like I've got no motivation because I know I'm with a youth team and you see the darker side of it. But then it's that whole thing of going, well, it's my choice now to make the best of it. So in how I see things now, it's like, I'm glad that I did treat it how I treated it. And there were some certain individuals through Luton that really helped me. Even when I look back at it, as much as a bad time as it was, there was a lot in behind the scenes that there were certain people that were just keeping me going and keeping me ticking along. And as you say, everybody does need that at certain times in their life. And certain people at Luton were the ones that did do that for me. So I do think of it as I almost was doing a mentoring role at that time, trying to help youngsters and prepare them for first team levels. And that's exactly what I done and took it on my shoulders for that.
Well, you mentioned the next club is where you are a club legend today. The fans absolutely love you. You signed in the January and a club weren't doing great, was they, at the time? What do you remember about sort of the team, the atmosphere when you was parachuted into that environment in the January?
It was tough. I remember I went to meet Graham Wesley after I sent that text to Dino Marmaria, and we sat down in a hotel in London, and he sat with me and he asked me, like, what type of player are you? What could you bring to Newport? And fortunately, I was someone that I thought, right, I have to speak highly of myself here. I have to give myself a fighting chance. And I was thinking, look, I'm a defender that gives me all. I put my body on the line, and you just describe yourself to the best that you possibly can without trying to sound arrogant, without trying to sound too pig-headed about things. You just almost just lay it out there and just hopefully think, I hope he likes what he hears. And I remember he sat and explained to him, and then he explained the situation Newport were in. They were bottom of the league. I think they were at the time 11 points from safety. It was a very, very dire time at Newport, and he was making, I think, 10 or 11 new signings. He wanted to shake up the whole system. He wanted to freshen it up to give it the best push possible that he could. And I remember I was still obviously under contract at Luton, and he discussed, right, so how are we going to get to Newport? And I said, well, look, I can go back to Luton and I can speak about my contract. I can get a pay up and then I can get myself down to Newport. He said, no. He said, I want you to play this Saturday. So look, we'll phone your chairman now. So we sat there and he phoned the chairman. And it kind of went against me because the chairman picked up the phone and he was speaking to me, and Graham Wesley was trying to negotiate a pay-up deal for me. And I remember the Luton chairman spoke to me on the phone and he said, Mark, look, he said, you can come back to Luton and not play for another 6 months. Or he said, you've got a manager there that's willing to play it on Saturday. And this is the offer we can give you. We can give you 1 month of a pay-up. And I had 7 months left. And I was thinking, is that all you can do? And he was like, well, Mark. And I knew they had me stuck in a corner a little bit because they knew there was a manager here willing to play me. So it was like, do I go back and not play at Luton, or do I just bite the bullet and have to go. So I said, yeah, no, that's okay. That's not a problem. So Graham Wesley found out what the deal was. And he said, look, Mark, what we'll do for you is, he said, we'll give you the contract that you're on at Luton for 5 months. And that would lead you till May. But he said, your June and July payment won't happen if we get relegated. But your June and July pay will happen if we stay up, and then there's a contract at the end of this for you. So he's almost like a manager that's into incentives and wants to see the character that I am. And because I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, I stuck my hand out and said, no problem. Because it was me, it was like almost like, here's your chance to go redeem yourself, go do it. And I shook his hand. So I went in at Newport, played the game on the Saturday, and then from there, it just snowballed. We were up a little bit, the performances stepped up a little bit with new groups, but it just wasn't quite clicking. Graham Wesley got sacked. Michael Flynn, who was from Newport, he was one of the coaches in the first team staff. And funnily enough, he played with my brother back in Bradford. So when Michael Flynn played for Bradford, so did my brother. And he knew of me through that. So I remember when Michael Flynn took over, I was playing regularly, and I kept on playing regularly. But what he brought back was the sense of Newport, what it is to be from Newport, what it means to the fans to play for Newport, like what you need to do for this shirt. And I'll always call Newport such a unique team and such a unique thing, because if you give everything for that shirt, win, lose or draw, those fans will turn out in the numbers. But the feeling around the place was we were getting 1,500 to 2,000 fans. There wasn't much of an atmosphere. It was a bit of a down and out kind of attitude. Yeah. But mathematically, we still weren't relegated. There was still that glimmer. So March time when Michael Flynn took over, again, we were 11 points adrift with 12 games to go. So it's a miracle type thing where we just played along, and then we're winning 1-0, and then we win another game 1-0, and then we win another game, and then we drew a game, and then we win another game. And it just kind of felt as though like there's some sort of momentum building, but it got to a stage where when we were winning, Hartlepool were winning. When we would lose, Hartlepool would lose. So it was kind of like always that kind of cat and mouse, and we were always chasing. But when you're the team chasing, you've got nothing to lose. When you're the team trying to hold on to a position, you've got everything to lose. So we just had to keep going, right, scrap this week, go again next week. And that's the mentality that we had. And he instilled a belief back in us. He instilled the love of Newport back to the fans. And we got it on the last day of the season. We got it back to, we were a point ahead. We were a point ahead going into the last game of the season. So all we had to do was win or match Hartlepool's result, and we were safe. Hartlepool had to win, and if we lost, Hartlepool were staying up. So again, turning up for that game was just, you wear a bundle of nerves. It was an all or nothing game. Like, I'd be stupid here to say like I wasn't nervous, because it was an all or nothing game. Like, it felt as though like we've put in a lot of hard work here to be able to get where we've gotten. And without even hesitation, all of a sudden you see the row of fans turning up. The stadium turned into a 7,500 stadium full of fans, flares, atmosphere. And it almost then brings back like the goosebumps, and it brings back everything, because it was like, so this is what Newport can be. The atmosphere and that feel behind it felt as though you've got a whole city behind you now. And we went out and you go 1-0 up and everything's cruising, because the momentum we were on, you just never thought we're losing today. We thought we're in it. We're winning today. And then Notts County end up scoring. And we hear from the sidelines, I think there was 10 minutes to go, and we hear from the sidelines, Hartlepool have just gone 2-1 up, and Doncaster were top of the league and won the league that season, but they're beating them 2-1 at home. So then Michael Flynn makes 2 substitutions, 2 strikers come on, and we're starting to hear the moans and groans from the fans, get the ball forward, and everything was just kind of building. But it almost was feeling a bit of a surreal thing of going, we didn't work this hard for it to just be thrown away now. Like, it would have felt devastating. And I remember the week before against Carlisle, the manager put me up front to just win a flick on and hopefully try and get a goal. So I shouted across, can I go up front? And Wayne Hatswell said, yeah, go, just get yourself up front. So I remember I jogged up front, and I've watched the back so many times. You'll see me standing there for the goal where the ball is just like pinball going over my head and I'm not touching it. The ball went out wide, and when it gets crossed and it lands to me and hits me chest, I remember chesting it, and I just struck it out of instinct. There was no kind of like I knew what I was doing and this is the player that I am. It was just out of instinct that I chested it and volleyed it, and it went in bottom corner in the 89th minute. And again, the celebrations say it all, that the place went crazy. I went crazy. Like everything just kind of elevated, and it was almost like relief. It was like tension. There was everything built into those moments. Like I felt exhausted after the celebrations because I was thinking, right, we still have 5 minutes to go here. And again, it was just a togetherness then grew, where no matter what, there was no ball getting past us. We're heading everything, we were kicking everything. And once that final whistle went, it was the first time that I ever cried for football. I fell onto my back. Mickey Demetrio, who was a centre-back partner of mine, one or two of the other lads like kind of started crowding on top of me. And I remember I was just tearing up and crying while I was on my back, because it felt as though we finally done it. Like the unthinkable, the great escape, as they call it, was completed. Like we won. And that feeling brought so much around to me on a personal level, because on the personal side of stuff, I had a contract that I worked really hard for, and now I've secured one. And then on top of that, I'm getting paid in my off season to that, being able to go and enjoy me summer, go home to Ireland or wherever I was going. And then what I didn't realise, what it meant to Newport as a city. That's the part that over time struck me a lot, because I had people saying that it was one of the best moments that they'll ever remember in the stadium. I have people telling me it saved so many jobs. I had people saying that it kept the city alive. Like there's just so many things. It saved the club where potentially they wouldn't have had the finances to survive in non-league football. So this place automatically start feeling like a home from home. And this is why I think I started to understand then that football isn't about where you move for the most money at times. Sometimes it's about where am I the most comfortable, and where will I make the best memories, and where will I go and do those things. Because it took 6 months to show me love of football again, where I fell out of love with football, to 11 months and not playing. Like it felt as though this moment's meant for me, with everything that has happened to me in my career, and the heart surgeries and the injuries and the setbacks and the manager's opinions. Like this one moment has cemented it for me to kind of go, right, I'm back. Now I can enjoy me football again. And that's why I say, like, there was so much emotion that came from it. And then the experiences that we've had with Newport for the next 3.5 years after that I got to play nearly 4 years, was stuff that you could only ever dream. Stuff that I never thought I'd ever experience, and it was unbelievable.
I mean, Mark, as you talk about this, I mean, you're a very good storyteller, you know, picturing this as it goes. How has this not become a film yet? I mean, this would just be a perfect film, right?
I've had people say to me before, like, it should be like a Netflix documentary, or it should be a film. And
100%.
I always laugh about it, but sometimes I think to myself, well, do you know what? Why not? Like, if the right person heard it, and that's, again, I always thought, well, if somebody picks up the book that I've got for myself, it's all things like that I just think, well, who knows what can happen with it. But I'm passionate about my life story and my life due to the fact of it is a life that anybody could live. It's just how you want to view it and face it. Like, because everybody faces the difficulties that they face, and everybody has a career path, whether it's football or whatever they do, that you will have the ups and downs in. But it's how you just keep showing up and keep ticking along. Things do turn and things will happen good for you. And I want to be like kind of the living proof of that it mightn't have been the most glamorous of careers, but it was a real career. It wasn't something where I thought, again, I look back at it and think the career that I wanted, where everybody wants to play in the Premier League, everybody wants to play for the international team. And unfortunately, I never got to fulfill that. But what I did have was I still managed to have a career, and I still managed to make the best memories. And there was something that I only seen on socials not long ago where an ex-footballer is talking about it, and it's him speaking about saying, like, people and fans don't remember that you played 800 games.
Yeah.
What they remember is the moments that you played in. Do you remember this game? Or do you remember when you done this? Or do you remember this game that we played in and everything was amazing? So, like, I never get hit with, I played X amount of games for Newport and I played X amount for Derby. I'm part of, at Derby, when we beat Nottingham Forest with 10 men. That was a moment that at the City ground, you go down to 10 men in the fourth minute and come back and beat them. I remember when I have a moment for myself where we drew to Celtic with Motherwell 1-1 at Celtic Park. I remember getting to go to Wembley with Derby and lose to QPR in the final in that last minute dramatic Zamora winner. I then, with Newport, then make moments of the Great Escape, playing against Tottenham, getting a chance to play against Leicester, coming on for a couple of minutes, getting to play against Leeds United, getting to beat Middlesbrough, getting to play Manchester City, getting to Wembley, getting man of the match in the playoff semi-final, like getting Newport into the playoffs by scoring against Oldham when we won 2-0. Like, that is what football is about. It's about the moments that you create for yourself, and it's about have the best moments. Like, don't worry about the vast number of things, but enjoy the career, and when moments come along, take them and don't take them for granted. Like, just enjoy it, because I think over time you lose sight when football becomes a job and it's a business, and you lose the human element of why you played it. As a kid, you would never think about, I want to earn loads of money and I want to go and have all these cars and houses. You played football on the streets with your friends because you loved it. Yeah. So now it's almost like, when I look back at my career, I go, well, I've had moments. I've had some amazing moments, and that is something I'm thankful for.
Yeah. What's it like after, Mark? Because, I mean, you do such a good job of explaining the emotions and, you know, picturing what it must have been like when when you kept Newport up by scoring that goal in the last minute. You know, obviously when you finish playing, you've gone from having these incredible highs, you know, that you've just been speaking about. What's it like when you don't play anymore, in terms of, because it must be almost impossible to get those highs in any other industry, right? What's that like, transitioning out of football?
Do you know what? It was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. I think, due to the fact of why I had to retire with a second open heart surgery, I think I had like a lot of mixed feelings of a lot of things. At the beginning, when I found out that my valve was leaking again, I knew I was going to have to retire, because when I was 16, I always made a promise to myself, and I made a promise to my family, and I said, I'm having one operation for my career and I'm having one operation for my life. I was never going to go through it 3, 4, 5, 6 times to continue my career, because I never knew how long it was going to last. If it lasted a year, well, then I was going to have the best year of football and I was going to stop. So I was only lucky that, and thankful that, I got 11 to 12 years nearly out of it. So I think over time now, as I'm coming closer to having to have the second open heart surgery, it was just something that me retiring took a bit of a back step. Like, I didn't think about it too much. I was more worried about the open heart surgery because I was 27. I understand everything that's going on. It was during COVID and the pandemic. So obviously life wasn't normal. And then when you get segregated in hospital, you're in certain wards because there's a COVID ward and then there's your ward, but you have to be careful about where you go. And there's so much that was going on. But I remember the difference of that was I felt every last effect. I was fatigued. I was lightheaded. I was breathless. I was having palpitations. I was feeling dizzy. And I was feeling all those effects that at 16 I never felt. And they were feelings that I was thinking at one stage, thinking I really am like feeling like I'm close to dying. And that is something that never crossed my mind before. It wasn't something that I ever really thought could ever happen to me. But it was almost, I was starting to see it now. And it was when I got admitted into hospital, I had panic attacks along the way that I thought were heart attacks. And once I got admitted into the hospital, They came up with a date, and I think it was 2 days before the date was meant to be my operation. I woke up in the middle of the night with palpitations and sweats and vomiting and different things, and I found out that they thought I had an infection in my valve, which they thought it was something called endocarditis, which can be a very, very tricky thing to have if you have an infection in and around your heart. And they thought it was with the damaged valve. So they knew themselves it could be a very critical thing. Obviously, I didn't know, but I could feel my chest and I could feel every feeling my body was feeling. And I remember as those 2 days were carrying on, they were doing tests, urine tests and blood tests to see if it was an infection. So they told me out straight the night before the day of the operation. They said, look, Mark, we're waiting back for these blood tests and these urine samples, that if you do have an infection, we can't operate on you because we can't take that chance of operating with an infection. And the reason we've moved you from the side ward onto the main ward, where all like the computers and all like the heart rate monitors around me, the reason we moved you here is because he said your valve, he said, is hanging on by a thread. And he said, if you don't get this operation done soon, and he said that valve breaks off, he said that circulates your body, he said gets lodged in your brain, he said you're dead. Yeah. And that really, really scared me and changed my perspective on an operation I was afraid of having. I couldn't wait to have. I almost was praying to think I need this operation, whereas before I didn't want it because I didn't want to go through it all again. I thought to myself, I need to have this to save me life. And the doctor said, Mark, and that's why we need to look closely and keep an eye on you for the next 24 hours, because he said it's a critical time. So with that, obviously, I'm on the phone with my mum, and my mum's been told all of this on the other side where nobody's allowed visit because it's COVID. My mum's been told all this on the other side about everything that's going on. And yeah, it was just like kind of a strange time where I didn't know what was going to happen, and you're almost getting told you have 24 hours to live. And I didn't sleep much that night. Wake up the next morning, the doctor tell me there's no infection and we're going to have you down for the operation. And all of a sudden it was like a weight on my shoulders I didn't know I had. I just started to cry, and I shook his hand and I was thinking, oh my God, I can't wait. And then I get prepped for the operation. You get wheeled down. And as you get wheeled down, you had to get put straight into the operating theatre because you can't go to the anaesthetic side of stuff in the side room to get wheeled in. It was like you go straight in because it was COVID. And I remember getting put asleep, and you see all the monitors before you go asleep, and I'm thinking, wow, this is big, because like there's like about 7 doctors on one side, there's about 8 on another, there's a screen behind with another 6 doctors, and there's so many people to it. And then the operation took 7 hours this time, and the doctor telling me, Mum, everything was okay. But I remember getting told that the state my heart was in, they were surprised I was still alive. Like, they couldn't believe that I was still alive, that I shouldn't be here right now. But again, everything just went from being in hospital. But this time was different because I had no reason to get back fit again. Yeah. I hadn't got football. I had no reason to care about being in the hospital or care about being at home because I've not got football. And then I started to realise how much of a distraction and motivation football was in my life, because you give everything to it. And when you don't have it anymore, it's like, right, well, why do I need to get up and walk anymore and get myself fit? Why do I need to pursue these things? And I just found myself being like, while I was in hospital. And again, you take it as little tasks for yourself. I was going out walking each day, and you have the fitness coaches, the cardiac rehab group that come in and they bring you out walking for 5 minutes and they sit you back down, and you go out for walking for 10 minutes and they sit you back down. And that's just the way that the cardiac rehab goes. Every day you walk that little bit further because your heart is a muscle and you have to get it going again and you have to keep moving. And that in itself was all going smooth. And then they thought I had another infection, which then that was another big kind of uproar when I was thinking, it's another infection, we might have to open you up again. And I'm breaking down into tears thinking I can't go through this again. And there was so many things that happened in hospital that I built up a massive anxiety for myself. and I had terrible health anxiety where I was just worried about, this doesn't feel right. Because with the valve that I've got now, in the metallic valve, you can feel it thumping every time, and you can hear it ticking in a very quiet room. And that to me is just something that I couldn't get used to. And I used to think, this can't be beaten like this all the time. Like, it's gonna like ruin my head. So if I'm out walking, you're feeling it thumping really fast. If I'm sitting down, it thumps really slow. But my head couldn't comprehend feeling it going fast. So once I feel my valve going fast, I have to sit down because I'm thinking I'm panicking. If it's going really slow, I'm thinking, oh, my heart's about to stop. My heart is about to stop. I need to get moving again. So I was never settled. So once I come out of hospital, after being in hospital for a total of 6, maybe 7 weeks, I got out of hospital, and again, you come home and you're laying in bed and you're thinking, well, I don't want to get out of bed. I've just had open heart surgery. I can't be bothered walking. I've just had open heart surgery. And you make the excuses. And I was in a relationship at the time that ended up falling apart, because when you're going through it, you have to be a level of selfish. You have to be a level of, but to an extent, I was just so focused on, because if I was able to hold my chest like this and think everything's going to be okay, well, then that's all that I done. Because my whole sole focus was, look after yourself now, rightly or wrongly. But over time, I couldn't break out of the whole stigma of, this is me now. Like, I've got nothing else, like football, and I don't want to go back and watch football. I'm not really bothered. You lose a sense of routine. You lose a sense of structure. Like, you miss football, so it's like a grievance to you. Like, you grieve for it, because it's, your identity is just gone. At the click of a finger, it's gone overnight, and you don't know, what do I do now? Like, I'm nothing without football. Like, I'm just Mark now, not Mark the footballer. Nobody's going to see you in the same light. You're not going to go out in front of a stadium where you're Mark O'Brien, the captain of Newport. It's just, oh, no, it's Mark O'Brien now. And that, I couldn't understand it. And I was having panic attacks, and the more panic attacks I was having, because I only ever tried to relate everything back to when I was 16. So I used to think, well, what did I do when I was 16 that made me get better? I tried to get fit, I tried to get healthy, and I tried to just keep going. And so I was kind of like forcing myself to get fit, well and healthy sooner than my body wanted to. So my mind was saying, Mark, do it. And my body was kind of been like, oh, we're not ready yet. But when the two of them weren't married up together, I started being hard on myself. And then when you be hard on yourself, the panic attacks were starting, because there's this conflict that's going on all the time. So again, I just lost all sense of how to live. And I just laid in bed and I would cry. I wasn't the same Mark that I was when I was in football. Like, I just felt like I went in and I weighed about 84 kilos going into the operation, and I came out weighing 69, 70 kilos. I lost 2 stone of weight. Like, I was weaker. I was more nervous about sleeping, because I didn't think I was going to wake up, because of all these stuff that I was told by doctors, and all these things about, Mark, you shouldn't be here, like, you were lucky to be here, and all of these things that it just really, really cemented in me without me thinking that I was actually thinking of these things. And our club doctor, who was amazing, got me in touch with a counsellor from Sport and Chance. I ended up doing counselling, and it was only then the walls start like kind of coming down a little bit, because in football you never really get taught to speak about yourself. You kind of get taught to always talk about the team. So in this time about talking about the team, it was time to talk about me, and I didn't know how to find the words for it, but it was when I started to speak about the surgery and what I went through. It was the counsellor that kind of hit the nail on the head with me, saying, Mark, you do realise what you're talking about? And I said, well, yeah, I'm describing my open heart surgery, like a ventilator down my throat, and my voice is all scratchy because they clipped the vocal cord, and I had tubes in this stomach, and I had tubes coming out my neck, and I'm talking about it like I was having a tooth out. And it was the counsellor, she said to me, Mark, you're not giving it the justice it deserves, that it's a life-changing operation, and it's not the fact that you had it once, you've had it twice. And if you've had it twice, you've got to allow your mind to understand that your body isn't going to be quite there, because not every 2 operations are the same. And you've got to allow what the significance of this operation is with your loss of football, with it being COVID and it being lockdown and life's not normal, with the sense of it's a second open heart surgery, so your body's going to act a little bit more different than it did when it was 16. And all of these things I had to start understanding, where I heard the same term constantly was, Mark, you're too hard on yourself, through so much of my life. And even after the operation, Mark, you're too hard on yourself, because in the way that I was for my career and for myself was always, I can always do better. Like, look, I can put things in place, and you're very structured, and you're very, like, if I get told to do this, like you do with fitness tests and physios and meet at this time, we need to do this. Like, as you say, it's almost regimented. And now it was like I'm regimented on myself to go, Mark, I didn't jog today, I didn't walk today, and then I started hating myself for it. I went to the training ground today and I came back and I didn't exercise while I was there. Well, then that's a waste of a day. And it's almost like I had to just strip my whole life back, and I had to go through everything. And the more I spoke about myself, the more I would get upset. And the more I would get upset, the more I was kind of relieving myself with so many things I was having, like, kind of pent up. Because again, you want to be the Mark O'Brien that has survived open heart surgery again, and now look at him, it's superstar. He's out there getting himself back great again. And it was the furthest thing from it. I was having real tough breakdowns. I was having severe depression. I was having panic attacks, PTSD, and all these different things of afraid to sleep. And if I had a panic attack in bed, I'd sleep on the sofa. And if I had a panic attack on the sofa, I'd back sleep in bed, and I never wanted to sit on the sofa again. Like, my whole life just felt like, this can't be me forever. Like, and it can't be. And just over time, just exhausting all avenues, I just started to find a way of gaining an understanding and just being a little bit kinder to myself. And it was through the counselling, and then it was through talking to more people who reached out to me, that I just started to learn that it wasn't football that made me successful. It was me that made my career successful. Like, so everything that is needed to build myself back to what I thought football made me, I've got inside myself. I just have to be comfortable in myself again. I have to be confident in myself again. I have to build back a level of trust in my own body again. I have to just keep building that sense, because football is what I was holding on to, the idea of, without football I can't be this. Whereas it's kind of like, no, I can be this because football was successful because of that. And the more I started to believe that, and the more I started to work on that, and I just started to be nicer to myself, that if there was a day that I didn't exercise, well, then it's okay, because I'll break the day down and go, but look at all the little things I did to even get to a training ground. Look at all the little things I done to get myself through the day. And my days went from just feeling like I'm in survival mode of just get through today and look at, I just need to get through because my valve, and I went through months of just surviving. And then I started to learn that little bit more about living, just kind of taking every day as it comes. And the mindset that I do be in now is well, I can't change what has happened 5 years ago. I can't even change what happened 10 years ago. And I can't worry about what might never happen in the future. It's like every single day that I've got ahead of myself, they're the only days that I can really focus on. And it's not for everybody, and I'm not saying it's the perfect remedy for everybody, but it's what worked for me. And the fact of going, when you make it so simple for yourself and you do it on a consistent basis, it becomes a new habit. And then that new habit that I'm doing right now is the fact of going, well, if I only ever have to worry about the day that's ahead of myself and try and be in control of it as much as I can, but the things I can't control, well, then I can't worry about that. Like, I'm going to focus more on what my day looks like, and I'm going to start seeing the brighter side of my days, and I'm going to start being grateful for the little things of waking up and the little things of having a breakfast and going, well, at least I'm outside today. And look, at things can always be worse because this could have happened to me. Like, it's using it all in that positive way again, just like my whole career was, but putting a new meaning on it for the rest of my life. And as I said, my life has turned around to being so much more calmer and so much more relaxing, and I'm not hard on myself anymore. If anything, I give myself enough credit, and I don't find it as me life story and the heart troubles are a burden on people. Like, I'll be open and honest, and I always believe now is the right people will hear me, and the wrong people, it doesn't matter, because it's my life and I'm proud of it. So if I want to speak of it and I want to try and help others with it, I'm going to go do that. And if it does help other people and it can snowball for them to help other people, well, then it puts meaning to why I went through it all. And to go through it all for the stuff that has happened is to put a voice on it now and make it heard from everybody else. And that's the way that I see my whole life story being.
Yeah, no, mate, it's so inspirational, and like you say, for those right people who are going to hear this, Mark, it's absolute gold dust. I mean, the fact that you're so open and so inspirational about what you've been through. You know, you may never meet the people that you're helping through these interviews and through your book and through how you talk about these things, but I'm sure, you know, this is going to be really inspirational for a lot of people, mate. So thank you for being so open about it. It feels strange to even, after listening to you talk about that, to even start talking about football again, right? Because, you know, but we will, just because I know there's a lot of Newport fans and football fans who are going to want to hear about your experience with Wembley. You know, after this, being parachuted into this relegation battle, 11 points, you know, adrift from being relegated. That following season, you put together this run that takes you to Wembley. Talk to us about the build-up into that final and what Wembley was like, you know, in the build-up to that, Mark.
Well, yeah, it was after being on the brink of relegation, and then it was 2 years later we ended up making it to Wembley.
Oh, it was, right, okay, sorry,
yeah, it was 2 years later. So it was the back end of the season, and as what we got described as a typical Newport side under Michael Flynn and Wayne Haswell, back end of the season, Newport grew strong in fitness, and for the pre-seasons that we done, it was almost like Newport are kicking on now. And that season was a brilliant season. We got to a 5th round of an FA Cup. We got to a 3rd round of a Carabao Cup, and it was almost like we cemented the joint killing name for ourselves, where whatever team came to Rodney Parade, be prepared, you're going to be in for a tough game type feeling, whether you're Premier League all the way down. And we just played Manchester City, and again, the stat that came from that game was we were the 5th team in Europe that year to keep Man City to a 0-0 at half time. Like, that for me was almost like everybody in the build up to that game was kind of thinking, make sure you keep it below 10, because again, it was David Silva's, it was Gabriel Jesus, Mahrez, Sané, Ederson, Phil Foden, Fernandinho, like all of these names, John Stones. So like, when all of these players are playing, it was like, that was an achievement. We were 2-1 against Manchester City in the 90th minute. Now, I know they scored 2 late goals, but if that finished 2-1, we'd done ourselves proud. Even though it finished 4-1, we'd done ourselves proud, because they went and won the FA Cup that year. They won the Premier League that year. That was their like kind of golden year to kind of be like, this is the team, the Pep Guardiola team that people remember. So that was a great experience. But it was after that, people usually always say, Newport take a bit of a dip in their form and then they kick on again. But from that Man City game, we just went on this run of just, it was win, win, win. And we just we went from mid-table to just outside the playoffs. We had a game in hand because of all the cup runs that we had. And I remember we played against Oldham on a Tuesday night at Rodney. And Oldham were a far bit below us. And we needed to win the game. If we win the game in hand, we're in the playoffs, we're 7th. And I remember we were 0-0 at half time. The game wasn't going as what we planned. Oldham were just kind of playing with that freedom of being a team that were near the relegation zone. They've got nothing to lose, and we're playing against Newport. Let's try and disrupt their season type of a performance. And we came back out for the second half, and I remember the ball dropped to the edge of the box. Jamil Matt chested it down, and I volleyed it on the half volley, and it goes in bottom corner. So again, we go 1-0 up, and then the second goal, even though it got given to me, Robbie Wilmot shot at the edge of the box. It hit my elbow and deflected in. So I got given 2 goals for that game. Yeah. But again, like, you hear this stadium chanting, he only scores in the big games. He only scores when he wants, and different things like that. And that again was another moment of going, right, this is our year. And everything was going in our favour. And then we got to the last day of the season, and in typical Newport style, win the game, you cement a position in the playoffs. Lose the game or whatever it might be, you need to worry about what happens elsewhere. We go 1-0 down against Morecambe away, which is always a tough place to go. And then it was in the 85th minute, Jamil Matt scored a dramatic equaliser that just rolled across the goal line. He scores a goal. We run off celebrating, but we needed to win the game. And if we didn't win the game, we had to then be careful of, we needed Exeter, I think it was, to match our result or lose. And we were in the playoffs on goal difference. And I think the final whistle went and we were all stood on the halfway line not knowing what happened. And our analyst comes running down the stairs. We're in the playoffs. And we sprinted down to all of our Newport fans, and everybody's jumping and celebrating, and we all get thrown sheep masks from the fans, and everybody's wearing a sheep mask. Like, it was one of these feelings where it was just like, yeah, it's crazy to look back on. But again, it was just the typical Newport way. All we had to do was win the game. But you know what? We'll draw the game and hope for a result elsewhere, leave it nail biting. And then we got to the playoff semi-final. We played against Mansfield, and it was a 1-1 draw at home. And when we got to play them away, we knew it was going to be difficult. It's always a difficult place to go, Mansfield. And within the first half an hour, we should have been 4-0 up. And it was almost that type of feel of going, Newport are playing really well today, to, is it going to be our day? We're getting all these clear-cut chances. One's hit the crossbar, one's headed over the bar. The keeper's pulled off an unbelievable save. Like, is it just going to be that one day that now Mansfield score one goal and then it's like, oh, here we go. And we just battled and we fought, brought it to extra time. We battled and we fought again. And we got it all the way to penalties. And then Matty Dolan stepping up to score that final penalty to go and beat them 5-4. It was just the underdog Newport story is coming through of everything that had happened 2 years previous to now. It's kind of like, how have they done it? And we just... had a togetherness. We just had a solid squad of a togetherness where everyone was willing to fight for each other. Everyone was willing to back each other. And that whole feel was just like a roller coaster that if you could relive those years again, you'd want to do it again and again and again. And we got a chance to make it to Wembley. And again, I'll always say it, that I was so proud of being able to be a captain of a squad of players that we had. To be put as a captain, as the squad that we had, there was so many captains in that team. From Joss Labadie, Jamil Matt, Dan Butlers, there was Mickey Demetrio, there was the goalkeeper Joe Day, Scott Bennett, Padraig Amon. There was all these players that I look at and go, any one of you could have been a captain. And for me to be able to lead these lads out, it was an honour to be able to look back on and say, look, I was very privileged and lucky to be able to do that. And when we got to Wembley, we were kind of going into it as the team that was in form. And unfortunately, on that day, it just was probably one step too far. It was that one little thing where, unfortunately, me being sent off, I took everything on my shoulders. It was very difficult to take because I felt as though I've let everybody down. And it was that kind of bad feeling of football that you never want to feel, that you're letting people down. But as a whole, when I look back at it now, I'd say it was a massive achievement for the budget we had, the facilities we had, the club that it is. We just lived some of the best years of that club's career, that I got to be captain and part of that. So as much as, again, I still look back and always think I wish we got promoted on that day, and it would have just put the icing on the cake of everything. Whether the club was ready to be promoted or not is irrelevant. But because it didn't happen and wasn't meant to be, I'll kind of just take it on one hand to say, unfortunately, it didn't happen. But the moments that we created for some people is moments that people will live with for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just talking about those moments in preparation for our conversation, I went back and looked at the highlights, and I ended up on YouTube. You can play back videos, really slowly, in super slow motion. And I watched the tackle. It was against Norwood, wasn't it? In terms of what gave you your red. And I just wondered, if it's, as you sort of transport yourself back into that position on that day, what was it that was going through your mind? Because obviously the keeper had it, he pumped it forward, didn't he? And then Norwood shot down the left-hand side. And you got your arms around him, but then it looked like that your sort of legs got tangled up with one another. That's what it looked like from my point of view. Did you mean to take him down? Obviously being on the yellow, what was going through your mind at the time?
trust me, I've taken myself back to this moment a lot. I could easily talk about it. That it's almost like as a centre back, you get caught in a position you think I shouldn't be here, and
Yeah.
you get in that panic station of thinking the ball's getting played over the top. He's going to do me for pace. Look, I'm going to try and alter his run, or I'm going to try and slow it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, that's me not thinking there's another centre half behind me that's ready to sweep her up and just clear the ball. I'm thinking I'm 1v1 here. Oh my God, I'm in a bad position. So what I did try and do, and anybody who does watch it back, is me right arm comes out to stop him. And as my right arm comes out to stop him, my body starts to come around as he's running. Yeah. But what you will see, again, slowing it down, is he locks my arm under his arm.
Yeah.
So it looks like I'm holding his short, where I'm not holding his short, but my arm is like locked in, so it looks like I'm holding him. And as our legs get tangled, as any striker would do, as a clever striker, he'll kick his legs out and it's a foul.
Yeah.
So overall, what a referee mightn't have seen at that time will look like he's just been pulled down on the halfway line. And I just look at it and say, I was in the wrong position for what I should have been in. And then on the other side, it was just a very clever striker who took advantage of that. Yeah. And I just got put into a situation I shouldn't have been in it positionally. But again, he was just clever in a way where even on the slow motion, if you want, like when you slow it down, you see me trying to take my hands away and my arms come out. And when my arms are trying to come out, the right arm is still always stuck in because he has my arm in there. So either way, it's always going to go in favour of the striker, where if that one was a yellow card, I'd hold my hands up and say, yeah, but the first one I would never, ever accept as a yellow card, because I just think it was a touch that went astray by a Tranmere player and he collides with me and it was a nothing foul. And again, it's just a free kick and play on type foul. And the referee gave me a yellow card. So I look at it and just say, well, if it was one of these things on that day that it just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately it wasn't. But I'll always
like you say, Norwood was clever, wasn't he? Because the fact that you probably got sent off because you pulled him, but if you actually look at how he actually falls forward, doesn't he? So even at yourself knows that he's just being very clever in terms of obviously using that momentum to go forward, and obviously knowing that you're on a yellow.
Yeah, exactly. And it is moments like that, like you say, they're like the little finer moments in football that, again, when you have it, like we as a team for Newport, we had that in abundance. We had lads who would go down that little bit easily to gain a free kick and to do the right things and to block a ball or block a player off the ball to try and get somebody else in play, like almost like you call it the dark arts of football.
Like
the side of football that not a lot of people want to do nowadays, because everything has to be played properly because of VAR and different things. So it's almost like we were that team of League Two. We were great at the dark arts, and when it gets done against you, which James Norwood, look, he's a great player, had a great career, and I had some really good battles against him as we played against them. But again, it was just a clever striker against somebody who was just in a bad position, and he made the most of it. Like if my arm never kind of locked in there, he probably would have never had the opportunity to go down, and he made the most of a situation. And unfortunately, I remember there's a picture of me when I'm kneeling and he's standing over me. He's laughing and he's saying, I've got you. You're off. I've got you. And that's when you know he knew what he was doing. It wasn't like that it was a foul. It was like, I've got you. And you almost have to, in the worst case scenario, take it on the chin and move on with it. But that time for my career was quite tough. I think just because I took on a lot of like the aftermath on my shoulders, that I just let everybody down. This is my fault. Like the whole season that we worked for, I let everyone down. And I think Newport as a club, Newport as a fan base, this is why I say that I love the club, because when they have somebody who gives everything for their club, they will back you 100%, and they backed me through it all. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea as a player, and you never expect to be. But Newport as a fan base, I can never talk highly enough of them, because they backed me through every single part of my career. And for me to say that I got to give everything for them and be a captain of their club, again, it's just another honour I can add to the list.
Oh, 100%, mate. It's a side of football that fans wouldn't even kind of understand what happens. But obviously, you're at Wembley, you've got the red card. I've seen the footage of you kind of going off, and obviously you had the captain's armband at the time, so you had to, give that back, didn't you? As you kind of go into the dressing room, what does that even look like? I mean, is there like a screen on the wall where you can then watch the rest of the game? What's that kind of experience like after being sent off in a game like that, Mark?
What happened was I ended up obviously storming down the tunnel. I took my shirt off. I walked into the changing room. I threw my shirt in the middle of the room, and there was a TV, little monitor in the tunnel area. So I came back out. I grabbed the chair in the tunnel area, and I was sitting watching the game in the tunnel. And I had a towel around my shoulders, and I'm watching the game, and it's getting to the 110th minute, 115th minute, and I'm thinking, get it to penalties. Just get it to penalties, we'll win. Get it to penalties, please. And then when it got to the 118th minute and you see Connor Jennings score a header, it almost, that moment, I remember I just kicked the chair away from me. I walked straight into the physio room, which is like an offset to the main changing room. I put the towel over my head and I just burst into tears. So the game was still going on for the last couple of minutes. I didn't even do the lap of honour at the end of the game. Like, I just sat in the change room and I just cried because I thought, what have I done? I have just let everybody down. And I know how everybody's going to feel after the game. And it wasn't done now of needing condolences, but I had a good few teammates come in and say, come on, lift your head. Things will be all right, lift your head. But I just couldn't be consoled. Like, I just thought, I have let everybody down here. And it was after that, I remember somebody came in and said, there's someone in at the dugouts wanting to speak to you. And I think it's your dad. So I remember I walked outside and I had the towel around my neck. And my dad was standing there with the Derby County Scout, which funnily enough, his name is Mark O'Brien. He's like a friend of the family. And it was me old manager from when I was the age of 8 all the way to 15 for Cherry Orchard. And the three of them were at the game. And I remember I just looked at me dad and I just burst into tears. And he hugged me in and he was just telling me, Mark, be proud of yourself. He said, before you got sent off, he said, you were playing so well. He said, you got to play at Wembley. He said, some people never will ever get to do an opportunity like that. He said, be very proud of yourself. How proud of me he was. And then my manager and Mark O'Brien were saying the same things. Be very proud of yourself for what you've done. Like, this is only a small section of what your career has been. Like, from, again, having open heart surgery, getting told I'd never play football again, to then, like you say, 10 years later, you're getting to play at Wembley, captaining a side in a playoff final. Like, it's stuff that, like you say, if I had been told that at 16, you don't take it to heart as much as you do then. Like, you wouldn't believe it at 16. So, like you say, things happen for whatever reason that they happen. And I look back at it now and all I can look at it and say, I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Mark, you're a legend. I think so many people listening, I can only speak for myself, given the choice, I'd have 11 Mark O'Briens playing for the team that I support. It's, you play like the most passionate fan in the stands, and you've got so much to be proud of. I just want to talk about another proud moment in your career. You were capped at both under 19 and under 21 level for Ireland. They must have been proud moments for both yourself and for your family. How do you kind of hear about those call ups? What happened?
Well, when I was over playing at Derby, before I flew away, like, I got to be the under 16 captain of Ireland, and I was captain of the under 17s, and it was just something where when you're playing for your country, it's during the international breaks and you absolutely love every minute of it. Like, I'm putting the green shirt on and you can only ever look back and go, some of the trips that I had, and you're playing away in Israel, you play away in Turkey, you play in Malta in a tournament, you're playing against Italy, you're playing in France. And these things, like you say, that they're all memories to look back on now, but some of the proudest moments to say that I represented my country at any level, I am super proud of. I think I spoke openly about it not long ago, about my only regret probably for my career, if I had to be cynical and critical, would be that I never got to play for my senior level of international football. And I said, now, if that's my only regret, I don't think I did too bad for my career if that's the only thing I regret. But because I've had ex-teammates that have gone on to do it, in Jeff Hendrick, Robbie Brady, Matt Doherty, people like that have gone on, and Shane Duffy, who I played alongside in 1 or 2 trial games, John Egan, Like there's names that are flying out that I look at them and think, I could have done it. If things didn't happen, like if you want to be the cynical side and the harsh side of myself, I'd go, if my career probably didn't have the certain injuries at certain times, potentially I could have went and played for Ireland and done what I wanted to do. But in the career and the path that it took for me to have the experiences I had under the circumstances, look, it's only a minor thing and it doesn't bother me. Like, to be able to represent my country at any level is a proud moment. To be able to put a captain's armband on for my country is a proud moment. So it's something that getting to stand there for your national anthem, and I got to be captain of it. Look, I could talk about it for days, but the only word that will always keep coming out of my mouth is I was proud as can be.
Yeah. When you look back over your career, who are your best mates in football?
Over my career, like best mates in football, like coming through Derby, obviously I played alongside Jeff Hendrick, who, again, we played against each other when we were in Dublin for two different teams. Getting to move to Derby, I make my debut, and then when we make the breakthrough into the first team, it was at the similar same times. He went on and done amazing things for his career, and obviously when you look at it and say you can't be proud enough of friends that go on and do amazing in their careers, like he would be someone that I would hold a high regard for. And then as time's gone on, like you stay in touch with certain teammates at different clubs that I moved around to, but Newport, I made some like really, really close friends. Like, I mean, like friendships that I believe will last a lifetime. In Mickey Demetrio, in Matty Dolan, Nick Townsend's, like the people that we went through all the hardship with, and the people that we went through the triumph with, and being at Wembley's and the FA Cup runs, like people underestimate the togetherness we actually had in that squad. Like the openness where we'd fight together like we were brothers. We would battle with each other. We would go against each other, and we'd also go out with each other and have plenty of drinks with each other. So like we were a proper family, and we were at a proper togetherness. And again, like everybody from that squad, and I could name the 1 to 11 with Jamil Matts and Joss Labadis, and there's everybody from the squad that I look at and go, do you know what? These are almost like mates for life, that when you're in your 50s and 60s, if you came across any of them again, or you picked up the phone and called them, you can always go, but you remember that time at Newport? Like, we will always have that. And that is something that I can always say was a privilege, and that I'm lucky to be able to have.
Yeah. You mentioned some of those skillful players that played for Man City against you. I'm interested, being a tough player yourself, who was the toughest striker you played against? Somebody who was really physical, who really sort of beat you up in the game. Anyone come to mind?
There was two that have come to mind straight away when you talk about beat me up. I remember when I was 18, I played away at Coventry. It was when I was broke through to the Derby first team, and we were playing regularly. And again, we were 5 games into the season. We were 5 games unbeaten. The 6th game was Coventry, who were struggling at the beginning of the season. And we were joint top of the league with Southampton. And we're going away to Coventry. It was a 12:30 kickoff, and I'm thinking it's just going to be as normal. We're going to carry on winning. We're just like we're in a great run, and we've got a team that are doing really well that Nigel Clough put together. And the striker Lucas Jukovic,
Right, yeah,
Birmingham striker, taught me a lesson in not every game is the same. So whatever strikers I was playing against up to that, whether it was Iwalumo from Watford and Kevin Phillips at Blackpool and all people like that this one was just, yeah, he taught me lessons on I can't just always constantly play the way that I want to play, where it's an aggressive header, aggressive tackle, aggressive everything. You almost have to like judge the game and be switched on every game, and every game is different. So like if I got too tight to him, as a big physical person, he'll go down and win a foul.
Yeah.
If I didn't get tight enough to him, he'll chest it down, he'll play. If I was going up to win a header, he'd jump that little bit higher and he'll nudge me body to the side and I'm heading it off balance. If he's going to win a header, his arms are coming up and he's swinging for me to see where I am. Like, there was just nothing on that day that I could have physically done to get the better of him. And I'm trying to play as I have the last 5 games previous to that, and I just couldn't get anywhere near them. And it taught me that lesson of kind of going, there's a lot I still need to learn here. There's a lot I need to kind of grow up with a little. And then it was the game before that we played Southampton in a sold out Pride Park, and Ricky Lambert, another striker that was a very tough striker. I came off that game with a black eye. Now, we drew 1-1 in Pride Park, and it was a great game. But I remember it was like the first couple of minutes of that game, and you're going up for a header, and straight away you're getting the elbow to the side of you, and the cleverness of his movement and the hold-up play. Like, similar to a Jukovic, like they were shown their experience over my inexperience to what I only knew how to defend, and be a defender, kick a head and defend. Like, they were my remits, and they just had that level above of going, right, but if you go in for that header, how are you going to win it? What are you going to do? And what way is your body position going to be? Like, there was so many things. But, and then even over time, I've played in other games, and to say that Gabriel Jesus and David Silva is probably the best player I've ever played against on a football pitch. Yeah. And even though he's not a striker, you just could not, like, you can't get close to him. Like, he'd drift away from the midfield and push up towards you as a centre-back. Then he'd step off you as a centre-back where you'd almost be enticed to go with him, and he'd just keep going, and he'd just keep drifting, and then you have to pass him on, and then someone else runs into his space. And it was just like Rodney Parade, where it wasn't the most ideal or best of pitches, he made it look like a carpet. Like, he made it look like it was so easy to play. So there's a lot of names to think of going along it, but they're ones that would stick out to kind of go at an early age. They taught me the kind of fundamentals of, I might be playing well as an 18-year-old, but when you don't have that little bit of nous, or, like you say, the dark arts of how to maneuver your body, they can make it real difficult. So it taught me a lot.
Yeah, when you think about away days, do any ground spring to mind in terms of the atmosphere being really hard? Somewhere where you know that was a difficult place to play.
I wouldn't say a difficult place. I would say an enjoyable place to play was the City Ground, Nottingham Forest. When it's the local derby, it was my very first one. It was the time we won with 10 men. Like, that atmosphere when you're going in, and I remember Nigel Clough was speaking in the changing room before we go out, and he was telling us how, look at lads, at this ground, Forest always start quick. You have to try and quiet and stay in the game for the first 10, 15 minutes, quiet in the fans, and then start playing. And he gives that team talk, and then what happens? They play one long ball, keeper comes out, takes down the striker, they get given a penalty, our goalkeeper gets sent off, and we're 1-0 down in the first minute. So it was almost like that game plan's gone out the window. But then we found our feet in the game, and we got ourselves back in at 1-1 at half time, and we went and won the game 2-1 with 10 men. And funnily enough, it was against Steve McClaren as a manager, and he was the Forest manager. But that atmosphere, I'll never forget, walking out was almost deafening. As a player, normally you say to people, like, you can still hear your teammates talking. Like, in that game, it's so difficult to hear a thing. It's just, it was just a deafening time. And on a personal note, I think playing away at Celtic Park was a massive one just for me, because I remember always watching Celtic thinking, when they played in European evenings and stuff like that, I want to go and watch a Celtic game. Like, the atmosphere looks unbelievable. Yeah. And my first time getting to witness a game at Celtic Park was actually me playing there. So to walk out at Celtic Park and you hear all the Irish music playing while you're warming up, like, I'm thinking, like, I'm in my element here, absolutely loving it. And again, being with a team like Motherwell, you never expected to go and beat Celtic, but we went 1-0 up. We should have went 2-0 up. And the Celtic team had Virgil van Dijk as the centre-back, Scott Brown in the middle of the park, Chris Commons, all people like that. John Guidetti was a striker. So, like, they had, like, a solid team. And we drew the game 1-1, and to walk out of Celtic Park with a 1-1 draw. Now, don't get me wrong, it was tiring, but again, they're just certain moments that you just remember. Like, those grounds as terrifying as they can be, like you say, for atmosphere wise and different things, they were enjoyable for me. Like, I liked playing in a kind of adverse
Yeah.
type of ground. I like playing at a ground where someone's going to give you the finger and somebody's going to shout from the sidelines and different things. Like, that's an atmosphere. That's football. That's what you want to do. It was almost always inside me that when you're in an atmosphere like that, what's the best remedy? Go out and win and shut the fans up. Go out and win and give your all. Go out and make a tackle and make people not like you. Go out and win the game and you'll hear everybody booing you. Like, that was just like something that I enjoyed, and you wanted to kind of be the person to put a staple on it. Like going away to Mansfield for the playoff semi-finals, the atmosphere is roaring, but when you win that game and you have nearly 12 to 1,500 Newport fans in the away end and you're celebrating and you see the stadium going empty, that's what you live for. Like, they're the things you're like, yeah, like, we've made it our ground now, like, type of thing. So yeah, it was tough. But there's another ground, now that I think of it, that sticks out for me. Lincoln used to always be a team that, especially in League Two, were land of the giants. Every player were 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", and they were under the Cowley brothers. Was 4-4-2, get it into the box. 4-4-2, long throw in. Get everything, squeeze it in with play percentage. We're going to just bully teams. And when we went and played away at Lincoln, I think we were 3-0 down in 25 minutes. But like, every free kick they get on the halfway line, to every throw in they get near the box, to every corner they get, there was an air raid siren that would go off. So it would be a big, real loud air raid siren that would go off, as in to say, incoming. And you just see the centre backs jogging up, and Jason Shackle, Boswick as a centre back. You had John Akindi, who was a striker. You had Matt Reid, who was another striker. And it was almost kind of like, you just felt when you heard the air raid siren, and it worked in their tactic to kind of go, oh, here we go, right? It's getting put on top of you again. It's going to be another battle. The game finished 3-2 because we went in at half time and we got a telling off and came back out second half a bit more spirited and stuff. But that was just something that air raid siren was just that added thing to kind of always put the doubt. Like you say, those little 1%ers that can help a team. You almost kind of look at it and go, that air raid siren, the minute you heard it, you were thinking, oh, here we go. So when it could have been a free kick from the halfway line, the air raid siren goes off, the centre-backs jog forward, and it's getting just put straight into the box, and you knew you were up for a battle.
Yeah, so good. You're back at Newport County now. You've got a different role now. Mark, haven't you? Tell us about what you're doing now. Yeah,
so I got this year, I got given the opportunity to become the ambassador in Newport County, which is straight across the board of the commercial side and the background stuff of Newport, but then also the community side and the charity side of football. So I kind of to be able to bridge the gap between the two. So as I said, the last 5 weeks now of doing it, and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. Now, it's a different dynamic to what I've ever been used to with football, and not being part of a first team and not understanding what my day is going to look like day to day. Yeah. But I find it exciting to think that every day is going to be different. From a kids' camp I can be at with the charity, to a walk in football that the charity have built up, to so many things. Like, county and the community is a certain charity for the club that has blown me away. Like, you always know that they are there. You always know, but you don't know the full extent until you're there and being part of it. And I, for myself, want to get it spoken about so loud and proud, just for the work that they do. Because when you go in there and you're a player, you only know of, you go to a kids camp, show yourself for an hour, it's a player appearance, and you're there for an hour, sign some things, and you walk away. But what these people are doing, and Norman Parcell being the head of it all, what he's done for Newport as a community is beyond belief. He's got 29 schools he goes to every single week with the staff that he's got. He's got after school activities, after school clubs. He's gotten walking football for 50s and above, 60s and above. Like, one of the people that I was playing centre back with in the walking football, he's 90 years old this year, and he's still moving around and going. Like, these are things that they do for the community. Like, they create small families and small togethernesses in the community. And it's the same way they do a thing called Fit and Fed down in the community, where they turn up to local parks at a certain time. they bring wraps and chocolate or crisps and different things like that, that anyone who, like a kid from the communities of Newport that mightn't be the most lavish of areas, they go and play with county in the community. Like, it could be tennis and football, and kids turn up and they get given food and wraps, and like, these are all things that I'm like, yeah, like, because they're so humble about it, they get on with it, and they love doing it and they enjoy doing it. And being involved in it and seeing the difference that they're making to so many people's lives, and the amount of Newport kits that are being worn around the city by younger generation of kids, that it's because of county and the community that Newport are starting to get new generations of supporters. And if I'm able to bridge that gap to what it can be, and have the club as a whole of going, them getting noticed more, the club giving them the recognition that they deserve more, but then also county and the community helping the club, and the club helping the county and the community, and being able to just kind of be the voice in between it all, because it's something that I think is pivotal for any club. I think the community side of stuff, when you have your locals that are excited about your own city club and your own local club, there's no better feeling than having a stadium full of 5,000-6,000 people that just want you to succeed, that give you 100% backing, win, lose or draw. And that's what I had with Newport. And now to get to see the commercial side of stuff, where I'm trying to help on that aspect and understand it for myself. Like, everything is so new, but I've just embraced it to kind of go, well, let me see where it goes. I want to make an imprint and an impact on Newport as a club, and Newport as a fan base, and Newport as a community. I want to make an impact of seeing a progression somewhere. I've seen maybe it's going to be a closer togetherness between the club and the community, because I can be the middleman to kind of feed stuff when they're so busy with the community stuff on this side. And if I'm able to be that and be able to add to that and get them noticed more, and to put the word out there what they do, well, I'll go blue in the face until I get it heard. And it is something that, as I say, has blown me away so far. And I've only seen 5 weeks of it. Now to be fully dived in and get to experience that. And look, I see it now to go, how can I consider it a job when my sole purpose now is to make sure a kid is enjoying himself at a kids camp, to put a smile on someone's face, to put a perspective on someone's life that might be so different, like to help people, like in the realm that I'm in and how my life has taken me. I enjoy helping people, and if I'm able to do that, because you're just going to be a constant to what Newport County and the community are. They're a constant in people's lives. They turn up, even if one kid is to turn up on a day that they've planned to have a kids camp or whatever, they will do a whole day session for that one kid, because they will constantly turn up. And if that is something that needs to be shone a light on, well, then I will do it until people get annoyed at me. But it needs to be heard. And the club, as well as that, the club have been amazing to me. And the new owner who's come in has proposed this. Jonathan Wiltshire, who was in the background of it, is kind of somebody who has helped me along with stuff like that. Like, there's so many things that this club has given me as memories, but also another chance at a different life and a different career and a different career path. And I want to give everything back to that. And I want the club to be on that next level to what, unfortunately, I wasn't able to achieve as a player. But I wanted to get back to that and more, and to be part of that and more. And if I'm able to do that in any sort of aspect, and keep the belief and love for the club out there in the community, where, like you say, as time goes on, you can get certain people that see the club going in a certain way, and you can get the negative. But a place like Newport relies on its community. A place like Newport needs its community, because we don't have all the finances in the world. We don't have like all the money in the world. So what we do rely on is your Newport fans, is your local businesses, is all of these things that you rely on to make it as a togetherness, that we're all in it together. That not everybody might want to come to little old Newport and South Wales to play a game of football, but when you do, trust me, it's going to be a tough day for yourself, and we're all going to be in it together. And when that feeling comes back to what I knew what it was as a player, there's something unique and special about it, that it just snowballs into success, whether you like it or not. but it's got to just bring back that love. And as I said, if my job can do that, well, then I'll be more than happy and over the moon that I'm able to achieve that little bit more.
Mark, you're an incredibly special man. I mean, this has been such a joy to speak to you over the last couple of hours. You've written a book, and you know, obviously goes into so much detail and all of the things that you've covered during this interview. I'm sure loads of people are going to want to go and check that out. What's first of all, what's the book called, and what's the best place for people to go and buy that book?
The book is called Game of Two Hearts, so almost like the football pun and game on two halves, but the two open heart surgeries. And you can get it online on Amazon, or reaching out to me on my socials on Instagram is probably another best way of getting in touch with me, or LinkedIn or anything like that, where it's an open page where people write, and I always do my best to get back to everybody that writes to me, and I'm more than happy to be able to send out copies myself and signed and different things to what people might need. So as I said, anything that people want to reach out about, not just for a book, but anything people want to reach out about, like, I'm always open to be a listening ear for people. And that's just something that I take on for myself. Not that I get told to do it, but as I said, everybody deserves someone to go and listen to them, because I had it for enough of my years, and I still have it to this day if I ever struggle. Like, I'm not a finished article. So yeah, if people were to see me socials, they will see what I mean by all of that. But as for the book, it's me life in pages, just in more depth, and some things that people never knew. Even some of my family never knew, because I kept a lot from them. They couldn't believe it. So it's something that it's not, I wouldn't say a footballing book. It's a lot of football in it, but it's just the life of a person who had a career as football, but I've had just life changing things, stuff that anybody can go through, and that's what I want people to take it as, where anybody can do what I can do. It's not just because I'm a footballer as to why these things have happened.
Incredible. Well, I'm going to make sure that I get the link to the book and all of your socials, and that'll be in the description of this video as well. So go and make sure that you go and find Mark and follow him on all of his social media, and tell him how much you've enjoyed listening to him today as well. Mark, before we let you go, I want to just quickly ask you a couple of memorabilia related questions. As you know, we've just partnered with Newport in terms of selling signed memorabilia for all of the players. Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph before yourself? Have you got an autograph collection anywhere?
I wouldn't say I have an autograph collection, but I've got a short collection of teams that I've played against. So I've got Zabaletta's short when we played
wow. Yeah.
West Ham. I've got Bernardo Silva when we played against Manchester City. I had Ben White when he came down back with Brighton, because we had him here on loan. Yeah, there's a couple of shorts in there. I had Steve in Ireland when we played against Stoke. I have some of my own shorts. I have, like there's not autographs I'd say that I'd go for, but if I'm able to hold on to people's shorts and kind of keep it that way, then I always look to get them signed and them printed up. So I would always look at the memorabilia from my side of stuff is always down to the shorts that I've played against and the shorts that I've played in that meant a lot, because even behind me, it's the one that I scored the goal in, and the next one is the one I played at Wembley. And
so good.
I've had people see them in passing by, and they've told me that it's one of the most priceless shorts that will ever be in Newport. And I always think holding on to that will just be, it's that they're just memories, and to have those memories in a short where you can always hold on to it and go, oh yeah, I remember when I done that. And I think that, there's no better feeling sometimes.
I love the idea. Obviously, you swap shirts with Bernardo Silva. I love the idea that in his front room, wherever he's living now, he's your shirt up on his front room. But when he swapped with you, where he's able to tell everyone about that game as well.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, match one shirts are a brilliant piece of memorabilia. I'm interested, if you could have anyone's autograph or anyone's match one shirt from the world of football, in past or present, who would you go for?
Past or present, like you can go from your typical of a Maradona and Pele and people like that, but I think in the position that I played in, I think if I had an opportunity where if I was on the same pitch to swap a short, it would have been like a Maldini or an Nemanja Vidic.
Yeah,
like they were people that I looked at and thought that's football. Like, that's the art of football. Nemanja Vidic played heart on sleeve, would stick his head in on people's feet and played as a tough defender. And I looked at that and thought, that's what I model myself off. I model myself off being that type defender. And I think people like that, again, it's typical. You want to go for a Ronaldo or a Lionel Messi short, obviously. But for a position that I played in, I think someone like that, like a Maldini, a Nesta, Cannavaro, centre backs of time, that I'd say up there, probably my favourite centre back ever is Nemanja Vidic. And if I had an opportunity to play against them or to even swap a short with him, I would have done it in a heartbeat, because he was just someone that I thought, in my time of growing up with football, because I didn't have the Paul McGraths that my dad used to talk to me about. I didn't have all of them type people. But the people that I have mentioned, I actually got to see play, and they're just up another level to anything that, especially nowadays, there is.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Mark, thank you again for your time, mate. Really, really enjoyed it. Make sure that you go and check out the link to Mark's book and to follow him on his socials. Mark, thanks again for your time, mate.
Cheers. Thanks very much.